Next topic is using this reference and constructor in Java. So what is the use of the this reference? So the this reference is used to access the instance variables shadowed by the parameters. So when we say instance variables, these are our attributes declared in our class. So kumbaga ito yung mga na-identify na fields, particularly characteristics and properties ng ating class. Say for instance, we have the student record. Its attributes are the student name and the student ID. So how are we going to apply this keyword? So using this keyword, you can differentiate the instance variables from local variables if they have same names within a constructor or method. So kumbaga, kung gusto natin gumamit ng iisang variable name lang or iisang identifier name lang at gusto nating i-differentiate yun sa na-i-declare na attribute or sa na-i-declare na instance variables, yun ang gagamitin natin, the this reference. So the format is, we have the this keyword. Take note, those are lowercase, dot the name of the instance variable. Also, it is noted here that you can only use the this reference for instance variables and not static or class variables. So we have here an example using the this reference. So kung papansinin nyo, we have here our instance variables name and stud ID. If you will notice, in the setName method and in setStudID method, inside its parameters, ang na-i-declare din is same variable name such as name and StudID. In our previous examples, ang ginawa natin is nag-isip tayo ng ibang variable na ilalagay dito. Sa na-i-upload na lecture regarding here, ang ginamit nating variable name dito is pass name and this one is pass ID. Kaya ang nangyaring initialization sa loob is iba. But this time, since we have used same variable name, doon na natin i-apply yung gamit ng this keyword. So in this example, we have there this.name equals to name. So ang tinutukoy dito na this.name is our instance variable or our global variable declared, while the name that we're referring here is the local variable or those variables or parameters declared in the method. So ito yun. So, usually, ginagamit ang this keyword for same names. Same is true with this.studID. Ang nire-refer nito ay yung ating instance variable. And this StudID naman is the local variable or the variable inside the parameter. So, yung iba, instead of using so many variable names, they prefer to use this one and they just use the this keyword. Pagdating naman sa ating accessor method, hindi na tayo gagamit siyaan ng this keyword because we haven't used the parameter name and StudID here. So basically, pag name at StudID na, ang tinutukoy na niya is yung instance variable wherein nakadeclare naman siya sa labas. So yun ang gamit ng ating this reference. Next, we have the constructors. So constructors are important in instantiating an object. It is a method where all the initializations are placed. So the following are the properties of a constructor. Constructors have the same name as the class. A constructor is just like an ordinary method. Parang nagde-declare lang tayo ng method. However, it has the following information that can be placed in the header of the constructor. It has accessibility identifier like public, private, or protected. But in constructor, it does not have any return value. Meaning, wala tayong ilalagay na return type doon sa ating method definition. And you cannot call a constructor directly. It can only be called by using the new operator during class instantiation. So, if we will compare this to the methods such as mutator and accessor, we cannot use the reference. But we will use that in the new operator declaring an instance of the class. So later on, we'll have an example coding or programming applying those. Let's have first a short discussion. We can categorize constructors into two. We have the default constructor and the parameterized constructor. So when we say default constructor, it is the constructor without any parameters, meaning it does not contain any parameter. So if the class does not specify any constructors, then an implicit default constructor is created. So in the previous Java programs that I have discussed or I have uploaded, those are all using the default constructor. So ang nangyayari sa declaring an instance of the class natin is we make it empty. So ito yung constructor na tinutukoy kapag nandoon tayo sa ating Java application class. While if we create our own class, we have this one. But usually, kapag empty na ito, wala na tayong nakikitang constructor doon sa ating ginawang class. So that is default constructor. Next, we have the parameterized constructor. So in parameterized constructor, it is the constructor with at least one parameter. Meaning, as long as may laman yung argument list or may laman yung ating parameter, it is already considered parameterized. So in this example, we have here your Java application class, and this is the class that we have created. So in the Java application class, as you will notice, we have here some values. We have the string value and an int value. So kung titignan natin dito sa ginawa nating class, we have also a string value and an int. In declaring for constructor, you should need your access modifier and the name of the constructor. And that name of your constructor should be similar or same to the class. So dito, ang example natin ay ang class ay student record. Therefore, ang pangalan ng inyong constructor is also student record. Ang kaibahan nito sa mga methods like mutator and accessor is wala siyang return type na ginamit, katulad ng void or a type. Ang ginawa ng constructor natin dito is katulad ng ginawa rin ng mutator method, wherein we pass a certain value to the instance variable. So kung papansinin ninyo, we have used this reference pertaining to the instance variable or variables declared. Okay? So para mas maintindihan natin, we have here a short demonstration or coding demonstration how the this reference and the constructor works. So ito yung ating example code na diniscuss ko rin or naging example na rin natin dun sa ating previous lectures, applying the use of mutator and accessor method. So ito yon. Ilalagay ko na lang yung link sa description box, yung discussion ko dito. So i-apply natin yung this reference doon sa ating ginawang class, which is the class sum. So in this example, we use num1 and num2. Ang mangyari is whatever are the values na ipapasa kay num1 at kay num2 is mapupunta kay x and at sakay y. But this time, since gusto natin gumamit ng this reference and usually ginagamit ito for same names or same variable names, pwede na natin gamiting x na lang ito at gawin na lang natin itong y. Okay. So, papalitan na rin natin ito ng x, papalitan na rin natin ito ng y. But the question is, the program cannot detect kung ano yung tinutukoy na x dito. Ito kaya o yun? Okay? Same is true with the y. Ano kaya ang tinutukoy na y dito sa nauna at y dito sa pangalawa? The program cannot detect it. So that is why we will use the keyword or the reference this. That this keyword was used to refer to the instance variables declared. So, ang tinutukoy dito na this.x is our instance variable. Same is true to this.y wherein ito rin. And itong mga ito, ang tinutukoy na niya is yung mga nakadeclare doon sa loob ng parameter ng ating method, which is set numbers. So that is how are we going to apply the this reference. Now, let's proceed to constructor. So, paano naman natin ito gagawan or paano naman natin i-apply dito yung constructor? Okay? So, ang gagawin natin, pagpalagay natin na ang function ng constructor is yung function ni set numbers, wherein magkakaroon ng writing or changing of values na x and y. So, ang gagawin natin, we will change this one. So, ang gagawin natin, we'll just make it a comment para makita lang natin yung difference. So, in doing that, you should have the access modifier. So, gagamitin ulit natin yung public. So, now we are creating a constructor, particularly parameterized constructor. Kasi ang gagawin niya is yung function ni set numbers. This time nga lang, constructor yung gagamitin natin. After the access modifier, in methods, ang kasunod niyan parate is a return type. So, dito ang ginamit ay void. But since ang ginagamit natin ay constructor, hindi na natin kakailanganin ng return type. Ilalagay na natin kaagad yung pangalan ng ating constructor. And hindi rin siya katulad ng mutator and accessor na kahit anong ipangalan mo ay pwede. Dito, pag constructor, it should have the same name with the class. So, the name of our class here is sum. Kaya, ang ipapangalan rin natin ay sum. Open and close parentheses. Okay. Since ang function niya is magra-writing or changing, so gagayahin rin natin yung nasa parameter ni set numbers. And ganun rin yung function nung sa loob ng constructor. So, this.x is equal to x, this.y equals y. So, this is just some sort of a basic example using constructor. Okay. Next, proceed na tayo sa ating main class or yung ating Java application class. Hindi na mababasa ng program yung set numbers kasi nga, inalis na natin. Ginawa natin siyang comment. Inalis na natin siya. Kaya hindi na siya mababasa ng program. So, i-remove na rin natin yan. And i-remove ko na rin to avoid confusion. Okay. So, na-remove na. Ngayon, paano natin tatawagin or i-access yung constructor natin dito? Okay. So, ulitin ko, if we will recall, kapag mag-a-access tayo ng members doon sa class na create natin, we use the reference or the object. So, in this example, our reference is S. So, in accessing getSum, we have here getSum. We just use the reference S dot the name of the member. But for constructor, hindi siya possible. So, ang gagawin natin, ilalagay natin siya doon sa declaration ng instance na kung nasaan yung ating new operator. So if you will notice, dito tayo nag-declare ng instance of the class. Our constructor here is this one, enclosed in parentheses. So dyan natin ilalagay yung parameters. So dito na natin ilalagay kung ano man yung ipapasa natin kay sum. So ang ipapasa natin kay sum ay x at y. Preferably an integer value. So, dito, dapat meron ring 2 integer values na ilalagay. So, dapat mag-match siya. Kung empty ito, titignan nyo ito, it has parameters. So, there would be a compile error. Kung titignan natin yung program, the input will, or the user will input for 2 numbers and then i-compute niya yung sum. So we have used this scanner, and those variables that will hold for those 2 integer values are a and b. So dito natin siya ilalagay sa loob, a and b. If we will try to analyze the program, your a, whatever is the value na i-input ni user, may store na siya kay x. Iko-call niya kaagad to. Yan, iko-call niya kaagad to, x. And then, kung ano man yung second input, mapupunta kay y. And then, ipapasa na doon sa instance variables natin. And then, later on, yun yung i-return niya. I-return niya yung sum. So, kung i-run natin yung program, okay, enter first number, I enter 75. So, your 75 now will store in A. And then, later on, it will store to x and then to your instance variable x. Then 75 and 25. Your b now is 25. It will store to y, and your value of y now is 25. And then i-compute na niya yung 75 plus 25. I-return niya. So, i-display na niya dito yung sum. Okay, so ito yon. Yan, the sum is s.getSum. Okay, so ang output na niya is 100. That is how constructor works in our program. Now, let's have overloading constructor. We have also overloading methods that is under polymorphism. Nasa next topic pa lang. Okay? But for today, we'll have the overloading constructor, meaning it is the technique of having more than one constructor with different parameter lists. It arranged in a way that each constructor performs a different task, differentiated by the compiler by the number of parameters in the list and their types. So meaning, one constructor is used but different parameter list. Magkakaiba yung content or magkakaiba yung values na nandoon sa kanilang parameter list. So, we have here an example in the program. We have here this one as your one constructor having a string value. The second one is a constructor having 2 string values and another constructor holding 3 double values. So, kung i-call siya, or so kung magkakaroon ng declaring an instance of the class using a different objects. So, for instance, we have here Anna record, Bea record, and Chris record. I-identify na nung main class kung saan siya belong. So, in this example, we have student record Anna. It has only 1 string value. So, ang nire-refer na niya is ito. Because it has a string value. Same is true with this one, Bea Philippines. String. So, dito siya pupunta. And lastly, student record, the values 80, 90, 100. Although that is an integer, pero applicable siya sa double for safety purposes. Kaya pwede siya dito. Okay? So that is how overloading constructors work. So that would be all for our lesson for today. Next topic is on fundamental and optional classes. We have the use of the string and math class methods.